that grow sustainably and don't burn out are the people that create systems that sustain them through the tough days. The folks that I talk to that are burning out, they're basing all of their daily work on vibes. How do I feel today? Where do I want to go today? And the people that are finding sustainable, winning success are the people that actually create a system to hold themselves accountable to a strategy, to know exactly what to do if you show up on a day where you feel a little bit fuzzy or lost or unmotivated. Get yourself, sit down, spend a little time with yourself, ask who you want to serve, how you want to serve them, build an outreach plan around that, and stick to it. Build a system.
Welcome to Staffing Forward, the podcast where we sit down with staffing and recruiting leaders who are actively building, scaling, and adapting in one of the most competitive talent markets we've seen in years. This show is really about real conversation, not theory, around how firms are growing in tight candidate markets, protecting margins, and navigating the operational and technology shifts reshaping this industry. Today, I'm so excited. I have a friend, somebody I can call a friend because we have a lot in common. He's here to help us, and he's here to tell us more about what he is doing, how staffing firm owners are growing their business while keeping margins healthy in today's market. I said I was excited today because this is a special person, somebody who is experienced in this industry. He's been in it for over 2 decades, Mr. Sean Campbell. Sean is the founder and principal consultant of Talent Design Loft. Over the past 20 plus years, he's led his organization through rapid change, scaling recruiting, sales, and enabling teams while keeping people at the center. I like that, Sean. He has designed onboarding that sticks, and he's going to tell us about that. Built remote first teams and delivered workshops that improve job order flow. Sean, I think that's where I need help with client acquisition and time to productivity. Sean, welcome and really glad to have you on. So again, our discussion is going to be on how successful recruitment firms do things differently, lessons in sustainable growth. To get us grounded, Sean, I know you are always busy traveling around. Where are you calling in from today?
So my firm is called Talent Design Loft, and I'm calling in from my loft office here, just outside of Chicago in Oak Park, Illinois.
Awesome. I just gave a brief introduction, but we will dig into your background in a minute. So, to get us grounded, could you walk us through your role today in your company and how your firm is structured in terms of how you win and deliver business?
Sure, that's a great place to start. I am currently a solopreneur. I founded this firm in September of last year. So, if that gives you an idea of how long we've been operating, how do we win and deliver business? I've applied a lot of the lessons learned from all of the time developing business, training people to develop business and staffing. It's relationships, it's reaching out to your network. And then once kind of you've talked to everyone in your network, it's really defining who is it that I want to serve and how do I want to help them? And answering those two questions has helped me kind of define my ideal client profile. And my
Hmm.
ideal client profile is search and staffing firms that are in a growth stage. They're usually somewhere between 10 employees and 100 employees because at that size, they're experiencing some real growth challenges and some growing pains that can be unlocked with the right expertise and help. But they don't necessarily need somebody full time focused on learning and development and talent strategy and these things that I help with. They need someone to help with a project or to help, for a limited amount of time. And so once I identified who my ideal client is, that becomes a lot easier to develop an outreach strategy and start setting up conversations and just talking to people one on one about what they're facing, what their challenges are, and start to determine some solutions together.
Awesome, awesome. So, Sean, what makes your approach different from a typical staffing firm?
Sure. Well, I guess to correct the record a little bit, I am not a staffing firm currently.
Okay.
I'm an advisory firm that focuses on helping certain staffing firms.
Mhm.
So I have the perspective of a lot of my clients and a lot of the folks that I'm engaged with. But currently, I'm not recruiting and delivering from a staffing perspective.
Okay. That's good. Thank you for correcting that. Excellent. So you've been in this space for a long time, and then you've had experience with even staffing as a staffing firm. You worked in those companies. Now you are in the advisory team. So what are the biggest shifts you're seeing right now in how clients are buying and how candidates behave?
Yeah, I think anybody who has an open role right now or is working on filling roles right now is experiencing the AI arms race, is what I
Mhm.
like to call it, because, it started with firms that had
Mhm.
cut their recruiting teams back to the bone. And so they had to figure out how to do more with less. And so they started implementing AI and different machine learning protocols to kind of like, take some of the load off.
Mhm.
But, and those were not inexpensive solutions. The technology that you had to buy was really geared towards the enterprise. But once ChatGPT landed and all of a sudden everybody had access to LLMs, that's where you really started seeing individuals and job seekers start to use AI at
Mhm.
scale. And that
Mhm.
has created this doom loop of volume. And it's very, very difficult right now to cut through all of the noise.
Mhm.
Hmm.
So when you think about our staffing businesses or recruiting businesses today, what are the key metrics or levers you're most focused on improving right now? So you being on the advisory side or on the consultant side, what are some of the metrics that you think our up and coming recruiting companies could focus on improving right now?
Absolutely. So it's interesting because AI has delivered on its promise to create more, right?
Yeah.
There's more candidate flow. It's faster to identify candidates, matches, create submittals, and do outreach. But it still requires a human to close. So, what I look at is how many people are you actually talking to that you can do business with?
Mhm.
Because we talk about how AI should free you up more time to engage with people. But what actually happens in a lot of cases is folks hide behind text and they hide behind their technology and they don't actually take that step to truly connect with other humans. And that's the differentiator. So when I see a team that's stalled out, the first thing I look at is their client count and has it stagnated or has it grown? I look at their new business development meetings that they've booked over the past 6 weeks, because usually the reality you're living in is a manifestation of what you did 6 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So you've got to look back in history a little bit and and the candidate interviews. And so if you look at who you're meeting and how many people you're meeting and are they the right people, you can start to diagnose, why growth might have stalled out.
Mhm. Okay. So let's shift to the advisory side. What kind of metrics are you guys focusing on? Because there are other people who are also doing exactly what you're doing, but in this tight market and with a lot of technology change, shift here and there, what are the key metrics or levers that you, as an advisory company, focused on?
Metrics. So that's kind of a hot button issue when you talk to people, especially
Mm,
folks in the client size that I focus on, which
mhm,
is that growth stage, because most of them are, they'll say some version of we're focused on quality and not quantity.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to challenge that. There's a classic, classic, classic business book, Good to Great. If you haven't read it, go read it.
Okay.
But there's a whole chapter about the power of and.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to say quality and quantity together is what is going to help you win. But that's going to look different for every individual and every firm because KPIs gets thrown around
Mm-hmm.
as a dirty word. But really, if you take some time to
Mm-hmm.
actually review for you individually, how many meetings is it taking you to get a qualified job order? And how many job orders is it taking you to get a placement? That's where those metrics that you need to focus on are going to start to emerge. And
Mm-hmm.
on the candidate side as well, you can do similar numbers. How many people are you meeting before you get
Mm-hmm.
a qualified send out on one of your
Mm-hmm.
active jobs and then a
Mm-hmm.
placement? So when you really start to look up and down the funnel at each individual, you'll start to build some formulas that you can use to manage yourself and really see, am I being effective? And then you can start to either improve where you need to improve personally from your technique
Mm-hmm.
standpoint, or you can layer in some AI where it makes sense to, have some technology enhancements to your process.
Okay, great. Thank you. Um, Sean, what's been the most frustrating bottleneck recently for your company? And what do you feel like? Is it, I know I'm not very familiar with a lot of advisory companies, but maybe this is a place where you can just give a little bit of explanation what you actually do when you talk about being on the advisory side and what is your most frustrating bottleneck recently?
Yeah, I think something relatable to anybody listening that is a startup. My biggest challenge is balancing delivering for my clients with all of the other things I need to be doing to run the business, whether that's getting new clients so that when this wraps up, I've got my next project, or all of
Mm-hmm.
the administrative things as simple as, arguing with my telecom over $1,000 bill that should have been $200, like just everything that you have to do to keep the lights on and keep the trains running at the same time that you're delivering. And I think any staffing leader who's started a business or is running a small business can commiserate with me a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of advisory, so I partner with firms in three different dimensions. There's talent, and I guess that's where I am a little bit of a recruiting firm because I have
Mm-hmm.
helped place people into
Yeah.
recruiting firms and help them grow. But it's also about helping them dial in on the hiring profile that works for them because not
Mm-hmm.
every person is fit for every purpose. If you
Mm-hmm.
have somebody who's an excellent cactus and they're going to
Mm-hmm.
thrive in the desert, if your company is a rainforest, they're going to die, right? Even if they're the best cactus in the world. So, it's like helping you identify like what is your hiring profile and then go and get them.
Mm-hmm.
Skills is where I've spent most of my time over the past few months, and that is really in demand right now is sales skills.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many teams that have a really strong founder that's got relationships and relationship acumen. They build a team and then they struggle because the pie doesn't get bigger when they hire. They've got excellent recruiters that have the power to sell. They've got the sophistication to sell. They would be
Mm-hmm.
great with clients. They're just not doing the thing. And so I've put together a workshop series to help kind of more of those folks on the team to start
Okay.
developing business for themselves and create
Mhm.
opportunities for their candidates. It's been fun
Awesome.
to do. And then the third is just the setting up the choreography that makes ramping new joiners work.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's two different doors. There's like the new joiner that's coming from industry, maybe an accountant who's going to now recruit accounting and finance people, the HR person who's going to now recruit HR people. They need all the fundamental skill sets to be successful in staffing. And small firms are not always equipped to do the investment they need to get that person ramped.
Mm-hmm.
It'll take them a year and a half on
Mm-hmm.
average to get that person ramped. My
Mm-hmm.
goal is to cut that down to 6 months or less.
Oh,
through
okay.
training and intervention. But the
Mm-hmm.
other door that folks more and more have been trying to pull people through is the experienced hire door. And that's where you bring somebody who you think is going to be able to quote unquote hit the ground running because they should
Mm-hmm.
know how to do it already. But the
Mm-hmm.
problem is they're running their own internal operating system from where they've been. And
Mm-hmm.
that may not match up to the operating system your team is running on. So there's all these
Mm-hmm.
unspoken assumptions about this is how we do this. This is how we interview a candidate, match a candidate, work with a candidate, get a client. And so there's friction that causes people to stall out and fail when you hire experienced people. And
Mm-hmm.
part of my service and part of what I'm really trying to help firms deal with is how do we bring on and integrate and ramp experienced hires as well so that they get oriented to the firm and the culture, they get connected deeply to the people they need to be connected to. And then we've usually identified one or two skills that if we invest a little bit of time into is going to help them ramp so much faster. So those are the three dimensions that my team, can't wait till I have a team that I'm dealing with with my clients is talent, skills, and strategy.
Talent, skills, and strategy. Very good. So thank you for sharing that. And I think your company is doing a huge service to this staffing and recruiting industry. But I'm just wondering, how do you tie all this together for them? You talked about workshop, you talked about training. How do people even, how do you reach them or how do they reach you? Because this is all good stuff you're doing to train, bring young or small firms up to speed. So how do you integrate all this in reaching them and then all or they reaching you? How do they reach you? Do you advertise? What do you do to reach them?
Not yet. So far, it's all been like year one, and I just reached year one. June 2nd
Yeah.
was like
Mhm.
September is when I really launched the business, but I
Yeah.
left my firm in June of last year. But this last year for me has been about really dialing in on what it is these firms need. What are the
Mhm.
patterns I keep hearing and building some offerings around that are repeatable and scalable. And so now I am ready to kind of
Okay.
get out there and do a little more advertising. My first round of clients have mostly been folks I trust that trust me that are in my network, but we've got some solid proven results out there now. And so if you need me, you want to talk to me, find me on LinkedIn, Sean Campbell, or I have a page, Talent Design Loft on LinkedIn, and talentdesignloft.com is up and running as well.
Perfect. So I want to talk a little bit about AI because you mentioned it a few times in your statements. AI talent isn't like traditional roles. It's specialized, expensive, and hard to access. What are companies getting wrong when they try to hire AI teams?
Mm, yeah. If I
From-
can take that conversation or that question down a slightly different track
Mhm.
towards staffing firms that are trying to implement AI, just in
Mhm.
general, because the size of firms that I'm talking to the most, they're not necessarily hiring an AI team, but
Mhm.
they're trying to implement AI tools all over
Okay.
the place.
Mhm.
And where it gets expensive is because there's a brand new tool that does something really fancy and cool coming out every single day. And what happens is, there's this FOMO that you think someone is going to adopt this before I do, and they're going to be moving faster and they're going to be doing better. But what happens is, if you're not careful, as you start signing up for all these subscriptions and all these products that
Mhm.
end up sitting on the shelf, and then all of a sudden you've got the same like weight on your back from a cost perspective that you have to hit
Mhm.
to be profitable that the big companies are
Mhm.
dealing with right now.
Mhm.
And so really, 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 I'm begging you, ask
Mhm.
yourself a couple questions. Just
Mhm.
pause for a moment before you decide whether to swipe your credit card.
Mhm.
First question is, how is this going to truly help me talk with more humans on a daily basis? Because that is a one thing that is going to help you drive revenue. Number two is, do I already have something internally that does the thing that this new shiny tool does? Because most Microsoft subscriptions with Copilot are highly
Mhm.
capable of doing a lot of things. Most
Yes.
Google Workspace subscriptions with Gemini and Gravity and all of those tools you get access to with a subscription,
Mhm.
they're able to do a lot of the things that these tools are selling to you. So those are the two questions I would ask my small to mid-sized founders
Mhm.
to ask themselves before they decide whether or not to invest. If the answer is yes, swipe your card because there are some tools out there that will absolutely give you crazy growth, but you've got to make sure that you don't already have the tools at your fingertips, and you've got to make sure that implementing this new way of working is going to really, really help you talk to more people and not just hide behind more technology or give you a monthly cost that sits on the shelf.
Awesome. I like that. I like that a lot because we're talking about future state, and a lot of people are advising and selling tools and building, and there's so much going on in the world of AI. So, Sean, if we fast forward to 12 to 24 months, what would a really strong version of a recruiting or staffing firm look like? Since you're one of your company leads them into building their business and also looking forward, what would a really strong version of those businesses look like?
Yeah, I oof, such a good question. I love to dream big about this stuff, but I think a strong AI first or AI native recruiting team is going to spend almost zero time typing up notes and typing up prep documents, typing up candidate submittals. They're probably not going to have to touch their ATS that often
Mhm.
because agents are going to handle most of that work. So, what does your work look like? Your work is going to look like spending time reviewing
Mhm.
candidates that are sourced through AI or fed to you through the tools that you've set up to go around the internet finding people,
Mhm.
selecting the ones you want to meet with. Some of the follow-up cadences are going to be completely AI driven, and you're going to have people that just show up to meetings with you that you can talk to. And some of them you're going to need to pursue on your own. And that's going to
Mhm.
remain a very human thing. Some of that is the pursuit and the actual messaging and the outreach that we have to do as humans. But most of your day, if you're doing it right, is going to be
Mhm.
spent in meetings kind of like this, talking
Yes.
about people's careers, talking about people's hiring needs, making those matches, and the rest of the note taking and the data capture and
Mhm.
the administrative work is going to happen almost transparently in the background.
Great. So thank you. Now I want you to talk a little about your model. So in your current model, which is the advisory kind of consulting model, what are the bottlenecks or what are the challenges you're seeing in this tight market? So now let's
Mm.
move away from the recruiting companies and let's come to you, the consulting company. What are some of the difficulties that you're facing as a new businessman in this world? I know you have over
Thanks.
20 years, but you're still new doing the new
Yeah,
talent design loft. What are the
absolutely.
struggles?
So for me personally, not for my clients.
Not for your
Um,
client, for your company.
yeah, that's a good question. I mean,
Or where would you
I
like to be? Where would you like to be maybe in 6 months? You've only been there with talent design loft for about a year, going on a year from September, maybe less than a year, 9 months. So
yeah.
where would you like to be in about 12 months, 18 months from now? What would you like to
There we
see?
go. Um, 12 to 18 months from now, I want to be in a place where we're helping enough of these firms that I actually have a team working alongside me and
Okay.
delivering for these clients because there is a massive need out there for
Mm-hmm.
firms that are, the whole operating model's in the founder's head and they've done everything to carry the firm on their back, but it's time for them to kind of multiply that out to the rest of their team. Or, the firm that has grown tremendously and they have such a great reputation with candidates, with clients in their market.
Mm-hmm.
And they're reaching a point where they can't grow farther because they don't really have a playbook to do it.
Yeah.
And so for me, there's one of me. And I would love to be at a place where I'm working with enough of these folks that I'm able to bring some other folks along, other teammates alongside me to deliver for our industry.
Okay, so you want to increase, maybe build a bigger team to be able to, is that what you're saying? Maybe increase the
Absolutely,
number of
yes.
people on your team and
I want to go from being a
because
solopreneur to being an actual team that's
team,
delivering out in the world. Yeah,
yeah.
some people delivering maybe new joiner training sessions.
Mm-hmm.
Some people, working with founders and founding teams to work on their operating model and straighten that out and get people onboarded quickly for their firms. Some
Mm-hmm.
people delivering more advanced training like sales
Mm-hmm.
workshops that I mentioned before, or
Yeah,
like just there's so much need out
to
there because
do.
there's so
Yeah.
many firms out there
Mm-hmm.
that yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I want to get so busy that I need more people.
Yeah. So what technology is your company focusing on using now? What are you using AI yourself, or are you only advising your clients to use AI? What are you using right now?
Yeah. I'm using AI personally. I
Mm-hmm.
because I have to because I can't hire right now.
Mm-hmm.
So there's
Okay.
two good examples.
Mm-hmm.
One is, I decided to double down on making some placements when I got a tuition bill from my son's university. When I received that tuition bill, I looked at it and I was like, that is a large sum of money to come up with. And I don't want to take out a bunch of loans. And also, I'm an entrepreneur and I've got
Mm-hmm.
the ability to make some placements. And so I said yes to some search. And what that did was, as a single operator, is add an additional workload
Yeah.
to my day to day. So, one thing that was slowing me down was I would have these great conversations with a candidate. I wanted all of that in a nice templatized way so that I can store it in my ATS. And I created an agent. I can't
Mm-hmm.
code, but I sat down with Google and I just talked to Gemini and I said, hey, I want you to look at the transcripts from my meetings. I want you to turn it into a templated format like this with the write-up I can send to a client and a write-up I can put in my ATS. And I want you to put everything in its place. And without having to know how to write code within an hour, that workflow, that agent was built. And now it just scans my drive every 15 minutes. And if I've had an interview, all my notes are where they need to be. I think that's like one really simple, anybody can do it if you know
Mm-hmm.
what questions to ask and how to define the problem clearly,
Yeah.
you can build something. The other challenge is staying focused.
Staying
So
focused.
there's, as a solo operator, there's so many different shiny objects to chase after,
Mm-hmm.
and every conversation brings up different opportunities and different ways to partner and different things to do. And if you don't have a strategy that you're focused on,
Mm-hmm.
written down, like this is my goal and this is what I want to do, it's really easy to
Mm-hmm.
drift.
Mm-hmm.
And like many, I found myself drifting. So what I did was I created another agent that I run once a day, and I trained this agent to do a couple things. One, I have a written revenue strategy that I put down quarter by quarter. Like, this is the type of client I want to work with. This is the type of work I want to land and do. And this is what I need to watch out for. So I trained it on that. And then I gave it this mission to look across all of my Google land, all my Gmail, all my Drive documents I've touched. It can see my ATS, my CRM. It can see
Mm-hmm.
all my work. And it'll scan through that every day. It'll show me all the open conversation loops that I need to close. Like, hey, you need
Mm-hmm.
to follow up with this person about this, blah, 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 blah. It'll show me all of the meetings that I had and the next steps and the outcomes. So I can copy paste those, make sure they're documented, all that stuff. And then at the very end, the most useful part is it'll give me a breakdown of how much time I spend on administrative stuff that's really not going
Mhm.
to help me move forward versus the actual time I spent meeting with people or working on specific items of work that are deliverable. And it'll give me some coaching. And some of the coaching is a little hard hitting. It's like, hey, get your head out of the ground. You spent, you know, X amount of hours on administrative stuff. You need to get focused back on what's going to move the needle. And just having that accountability loop that I built for myself with an AI agent has really helped me stay on track and stay focused.
I like that. I like that so much. You know, somebody who is non-technical and trying to learn, trying to research, building relationship with people who know and getting to learn what you have to learn today. This is really good. Sean, it's been a great conversation and we could be here talking all day, but I want the last word from you. If you were to advise an up and coming recruiting and staffing firm right now, what will be the key takeaway for them from this podcast? What will be your key takeaway for them?
Yeah, the people that grow sustainably and don't burn out are the people that create systems that sustain them through the tough days. The folks that I talk to that are burning out, they're basing all of their daily work on vibes. How do I feel today? Where do I want to go today? And the people that are finding sustainable, winning success are the people that actually create a system to hold themselves accountable to a strategy, to know exactly what to do if you show up on the day where you feel a little bit fuzzy or lost or unmotivated. Get yourself sit down, spend a little time with yourself, ask who you want to serve, how you want to serve them, build an outreach plan around that, and stick to it. Build a system.
Thank you. Awesome. That sounds great. Thank you, Sean. Thank you again for sharing your insights, experience, and perspective with our audience. And I really, really appreciate you sharing how you're building your pipeline. I know you're also in a new space, not really a new space, but you've built a new company and you're building your pipeline. Thank you for sharing your secret sauce. And we really appreciate you. We hope to be able to bring you back to tell us more about where you are today, maybe in 12 months, 6 months, 18 months. Thank you so much. And to everyone listening, we appreciate you spending time with us. If this conversation brought you value, be sure to subscribe, share the episode with your network, and stay connected as we continue bringing forward-thinking conversation from leaders across staffing and recruiting industry. Until then, have a great day.